it's Alison. Welcome to Automatic Mouth. Today, I'm going to be starting the series on the 7 Hermetic Principles. These are the things that it was like the OG of mindset. It goes back thousands of years. And yeah, I decided it's just one of those things that sort of interested me. And I thought, where does it come from? What do they mean? Let's break it down and see how it applies to today's world. As I said, it's like 2,000 odd years old. So it was initially called, let me see if I can get the word right, Hermeticism. I think that's right. And it's a philosophy about almost like the universal laws. However, it's more to do about self-awareness. So let's break it down over the next 7 episodes. And today's episode is on the first Hermetic Principle, which is about mentalism. It's actually, the wording around it is called the all is mind, which when I read that, I thought, okay, this is a cult. That's what it sounded like to me, a cult. However, it's simply a reminder that your entire reality exists here. This is where it starts. This is where you create from. So think of it this way. Your outside world, what you perceive, what you see in the outside world is really all about your thoughts, your beliefs. In psychology, we call it schemas. In what else? In NLP, we call it the map. So it's how you form your understanding of reality, and then that's what's projected outside of you. So let's break down a few things to do with that so that it makes a bit more sense on how it relates to now, what we can do about it now, if that makes sense. As I said, everything passes through your mind first, every belief, every habit, every fear, every dream. It all started with your thoughts. There's no two ways around that, whether it's conscious or unconscious. For you to believe something, you have to think about it first. It's how the mind works, right? So getting back to the schemas from psychology, they're mental frameworks. It's how we construct our reality. And so everything that comes in, we are filtering it through these, like I said, the beliefs, our habits, our fears, our past, all of our thoughts. We filter it through all that. One of those old examples is that, 2 people can watch the same movie, be in the same cinema and watch the same movie, and yet have completely different ideas about what the movie was like. And yet the movie itself doesn't change, does it? It's how you perceive it is what changes it. Or, the weather. How is it that it can be rainy and dreary and cloudy outside, and one person can see it as rainy, dreary, and ruined all their plans, and another person sees it as an amazing day to cuddle up with a good book, and bonus, it's, watering the plants. Same weather, same day, same place in time and space. And yet the perception completely different. A different reality is created for those people. That's what this principle really is about. I did mention about in NLP, we bring it back to the map is not the territory. Again, what it's basically saying is that the reality is simply a projection of your internal map. It doesn't make it the truth. It's how you've perceived it, how you've created it. And the person standing right next to you has their own internal map with which they will view and create reality around them. So if you have an internal map, we'll call it that constantly says, I'm not good enough. Or an example I've used from my own life is I used to always say to myself and believe, I'm no good at math. I'm terrible at mathematics. I'm no good with numbers. That was my map. That was my reality. That's what I believed. And so anytime something came up on the spot, with numbers and having to do numbers, I would get anxious because what I was creating was a reality that matched that internal map and belief. Yeah. Ever notice that someone who believes they're lucky They always manage to win the meat raffle at the local pub. And so then you get on board with it and go, "Oh, they are so lucky. They win so much." What's the reason for that? It's because they believe it. And the same works in reverse. Like I did with the mathematics. If you believe that you only have bad luck, you never win anything, then guess what? Your mind becomes primed to spot that so that it matches, the reality matches your internal map. Going back a little bit, if we dig into a bit of Freud, I don't know if you've seen it yourself, the iceberg, Freud's iceberg of how the mind works. And he would say that the unconscious mind is the hidden part of the iceberg that actually shapes the reality or shapes what's being shown to the world. So we would call it automatic thoughts, wouldn't we? Where something you believe and think automatically directs how you move forward. If you believe that you can't do something, then guess what? You can't. There's that old saying, isn't it? Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're correct. Test it out for yourself. Please. I always say this. You don't have to take my word for it. Take what I'm telling you today, what I'm sharing with you, and go and test it for yourself and see how it works. However, please understand, it's not as simple as repeating a mantra. You've got to do that over a long period of time, or I will say a period of time, because what you actually need to adjust is your internal belief. So it's not a fake it till you make it kind of situation. Just saying, I'm such a lucky person. You're not suddenly going to become lucky, because if you say that, I'm such a lucky person, however, inside you can already hear that quiet voice saying, no, you're not. What a load of shit. That internal belief system, that's what runs the show. And that is going to be what creates your reality, not what you speak necessarily. Okay? As I said, the subconscious mind, it runs the show. And we do not give it enough attention and put enough of our work, I guess, our daily thinking. We don't put enough importance on fixing our thinking and moving our thinking to a place where it's actually setting us up to do well rather than setting us up to fail because of our fears and our wounds and our traumas and all those things that have kind of shaped our map. They've also shaped our beliefs. And so then our thoughts about that is what shapes our reality. We have to go right back to that programming, that map, and change that. So, as I was saying about map is not the territory. We're not reacting, we're not triggered by reality itself. We're triggered by our internal map of what's happening. Yeah? As I said, your reality will very obediently reflect your beliefs back to you, whether it's your jobs, your career, your relationship, opportunities, luck, all those sorts of things. That is reflecting what you truly believe about yourself. And I know that's a bitter pill to swallow, and I've had to swallow it many a times, and it's the jagged little pill. Thanks, Alanis. However, take what you want, leave what you don't. So I guess the bottom line for this, although I'll say that plenty of times, there's plenty of bottom lines. I hope that what you're taking away from this is that if you want to change what you experience externally, then what requires editing is your inner script, your thoughts, your beliefs. That's where your focus must go if you want to change how you are perceiving the reality. The other amazing thing about mentalism is the placebo effect. So I know up till now I've spoken about, our thoughts create our reality. Let's put it into a little bit of a different example, okay? There are plenty of books. One, The Biology of Belief. Great book. I recommend it. People have literally healed themselves simply because they believe that they have had, a medication that fixes it, or they've had a surgery that fixes it, when they actually haven't. They've had a sugar pill or fake surgery. The fake surgery story, read Biology of Belief. They have turned things around purely by changing their belief. The belief has caused a biological change within them, because your mind directs your body. Your body simply follows the orders given by the mind. If your mind says, oh, I can't run any further, I'm exhausted, guess what? Your body's not going to keep going. Your mind gives out before your body does. Your body is simply a machine that is run by the mind, and the mind gives the orders. So that's where we've got to put our focus on. And that if, we look at things like, what's the word I want? Hypnotherapy. I love hypnotherapy. And in all honesty, I do not use it enough. Hypnotherapy is fantastic. And yet, at its core, what it is mentalism. It is getting to the core of the person's belief and rewriting the script. Because if you believe differently, then your mind will think differently and your body will respond accordingly. It'll follow orders. It's very, very cool stuff. There's lots of studies out there. Please feel free, go and do your research. There's lots of studies out there on times where, people have been given non-alcoholic drinks, believing though it was alcoholic. And biologically, they started behaving as if they were drunk. I think there's a research out there. There's something that was done in regards to saying that the sacramental water or something in a church was poisoned or was, made people sick. And one person said, oh yeah, I feel sick. And then the whole congregation became unwell and actually vomited. And yet it was all just mentalism. There was nothing wrong with it at all. So the principle of mentalism, it's not woo-woo. It's meta science. It's what's behind how mindset works. And so if you are keen on understanding your mind and getting it to work for you, then this is your flag to start broadening the way that you experience the world and what you believe and the discussions that you have with yourself, because those thoughts are creating your reality. Another really great example of mentalism is something called the Pygmalion effect. It's also known as the Rosenthal effect it was Rosenthal and another guy back in the 60s. They did this experiment where they actually told, it was an educational setting, and they told the teacher of this class, or the teacher of this class that was just, I think they got like 18 or 20 random kids from the school, and they told the teacher that they had done a test on these kids, and these kids were, I think they called them intelligence bloomers or something like that. But they sort of said, what they said was that the test showed them that these kids' IQ was ready to take off. They were special. They were gifted, in IQ. And however, that was not true. These kids were very random, very basic, normal, no different than anyone else, right? But they didn't tell the kids or the teachers that. And what the results of that show, again, feel free to go and look it up, because the teachers believed that they were being given these gifted kids, the kids actually showed these remarkable rise in their IQ. They outbloomed other kids who were having the same kind of situation as them, but because the teachers believed that these kids were special, there was this flow-on effect, and it created these kids to believe that they were something special. And so they followed suit. That expectation shaped the behavior. It's really, really cool stuff. So I would say, kind of tying this in now for yourself, I challenge you to go away from this episode and start thinking about, do like a mental audit, I guess. What are your dominant thoughts? And how often are they coming up, through the day? Is it every day? Is it multiple times a day? Is it working for you or is it working against you? And when you find these dominant thoughts that are of a negative nature, that are, keeping you boxed as opposed to helping you change your reality, where did that thought come from? Where did you pick it up from? Did you borrow it from someone? Is it actually true? Do you have proof of it? Do you have evidence? Or, as I said, did you borrow it? Did you inherit it? And it's simply just noise that keeps you stagnant, keeps you in the same spot. That's the first step. Actually become aware of what you're thinking and whether it's working for you or against you. And then be asking the question, where did it come from? Is it true? Where's my proof? What would happen if I tested it? Take a chance on yourself. And then you can start rewiring that map that I talked about earlier in the episode with simple reframes. Something like if what you notice you say a lot is things like, I can't, just tack on the end for me. Give this a go. Tack on the end. I can't yet. So even though it's still a negative, when you simply put that word on the end, I can't yet, you're starting to shift that story in your mind. Because the minute you say yet, it presupposes possibility. Possibility means there's hope. That gives you something to move towards. As I said, it shifts your reality. I can't yet. And that starts to broaden the experience and allow you to, as I said, see possibilities where perhaps before it was quite narrow. Start rewiring the map. It's possible. It can be done. And so if you think about your life as you look outside of yourself, is your mind being projected? Again, look inward then. What am I projecting today? If I'm seeing grumpy people everywhere and I'm just angry, everyone around me seems to be snappy. What's going on for you? What are you saying in your mind? How are you feeling? What are you saying to yourself? Because that is what's being projected. Remember, you're priming your mind to notice your beliefs so that your reality matches your internal beliefs and thoughts. So if you want a better reality, if you want to see things differently, you have to upgrade internally. It's the thinking that has to change. So I trust that's making sense for you. Please let me know. If you've got any questions or you're not sure, the next episode, let me just quickly have a look and see what we're going to be doing next. The second principle is the principle of correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. So about patterns in your life. So that'll be a really cool episode. We'll break it down next week and I hope you can join me. I look forward to seeing you there. Bye for now.